Yeah, we've all heard of Jesus, right? Born in a manger, died on a cross, carpenter sort of thing. But do we really know what Jesus was like himself? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in our Bible study this week.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us in our Bible study. We are going to be, over the next several months, going through the book of Hebrews, and which is really a great, interesting book. And to answer your question, this whole letter to the Hebrews really answers that question really, really clear in many different aspects of who Jesus was, what was he like, his comparison, and just some really unique things, what Jesus did. If you are a Christian, this will help you understand more about Jesus. If you are you're not sure about the Christian thing, this will help you so much understand clearly Christianity.
Why Jesus is such a big deal.
Yep. What is Christianity about? How is that different from the whole Bible? Things like that. So we encourage you to watch all of our weeks that we're going through Hebrews.
Yep.
So today we're just going to start in verse 1, and we're just going to take it through verse 4 as we begin. Let me read that to you. It says, in the past, God spoke to our forefathers through the prophets at many times and in various ways. But in these last days, he has spoken to us by his Son, whom he appointed heir of all things, and through whom he made the universe. I want to stop there, just cover those things a little bit, that Jesus is the Son of God, that God used to speak to this world through the law of Moses, through prophets.
Which, make up a lot of those documents of the Old Testament.
Pretty much the Old Testament. And that's how God used to speak to us. He doesn't speak to us that way anymore. Those things haven't went away. We can read them and see what God had said in the past and what God was about. But now he says there's something new. That word is going to be a lot during this whole study of Hebrews, is something new. Well, now God talks to you and I in a new way, and that is through his Son. We have a record of eyewitnesses and people who had taken account from eyewitnesses and recorded not everything that Jesus said. That would be impossible. But many things that Jesus said, and now God is speaking to us through Jesus himself. And that's what we call our New Testament. Jesus himself, there's kind of there's 4 books that are written, 4 accounts. They're called the Gospels. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John wrote kind of the story of Jesus, things Jesus said and did. And then we have the epistles, which is things that people that have heard what Jesus said, reiterated, or wrote letters to churches, which is very applicable to us today, about the things that Jesus said. So God speaks to you and I today through Jesus. I know it's a popular thing we say a lot, especially at funerals, that we're really not qualified to answer certain things. We're not qualified to answer what happens after you die. I don't know.
Never been there.
You've never been there.
Never been there.
But there's a lot of other things in life that we're really not qualified to answer. But I believe every topic or every at least issue in life is Jesus addressed in one way or another.
Yeah.
So we can learn from him.
This idea that we don't have to go back and, count on a prophet in our land to speak to us. Like you said, there's a lot of good stuff in here. I'm excited for it. But the fact that we can have a direct, personal relationship with God through Jesus, and he can speak to us and lead us, is incredible.
I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's absolutely awesome. Let's keep going at verse 3. He says, the Son, who is Jesus, is the... Did I miss a verse?
Nope.
I did. Okay. The Son is the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation of his being. Whose being?
The Father.
Of the Father.
The Father.
So, who is Jesus?
He's a mirror of the Father.
He is an exact representation.
So what was
He's a mirror
Jesus'
of the Father.
Attitudes about, pick a topic.
What was Jesus' attitude about forgiveness?
Whatever the Father said.
Good answer. I think, and this is a great time to bring this up, we both agree on this, that so oftentimes we view Jesus as this kind, loving, forgiving, caring, person. And so oftentimes in Christianity, we just look at Jesus as being this wonderful guy who cared about everybody.
Yeah.
But, and we're being technical here, but do we really know who Jesus was?
I think the issue is when we view Jesus that way, subconsciously, either from just culture misrepresenting or we don't have a good understanding of the Old Testament, if Jesus is the nice one, that means the Father has to be the harsh one, right? And like, that's not true. You know?
Do you almost feel like good cop, bad cop? Dad wants to discipline you. Mom comes in to rescue you. You know, this kind of a thing. I think this is more common than what we think. And I want each one of you to really think about this. Have you ever had the image of the Father in heaven being this judge who is anxious to judge people on their righteous behavior or not? And Jesus is the one that's kind of like, Father, be careful, don't do this yet. You know, Father, hey, I'm gonna talk to the Father about you and tell him to calm down a little bit because I am the lovely, patient, kind one. Have you ever had that image? And I think what blows that image away is Jesus was just being obedient to his Father. Jesus said, everything that I say and everything I do is from the Father. He said, I don't say anything that I haven't the Father say. And here we see what a great description of it. The exact representation of the Father, of his being. So technically, Jesus and the Father are alike, but technically we don't really know who Jesus was.
He never expressed his personal opinion or did something that just he wanted to do.
Right.
Everything was, this is from the Father.
So if you view...
It's a cool perspective.
It is. It's just a great way to think of it, that if you see Jesus as patient, kind, good, loving, that's actually describing the Father. It's actually describing the Father. So if anything, this should challenge our view of the Father if it's inaccurate. If we have a view of God, our Father, in any other way than what we see Jesus, it's an inaccurate view. And so Jesus really was an exact representation of the Father. And he goes on and he says, sustaining all things by his powerful word. After he had provided purification for sins, he sat down at the right hand of the Majesty in heaven. I just think this describes Jesus so much. We know that Jesus was the one who created all things. All things were made by him and for him. He created all things, and he goes on and he says that after he had provided purification for sins, he sat down at the right hand. Jesus had a clear mission. He came to this world with a mission. His mission was to die on a cross as an innocent person, take the penalty for the guilty, so that he could bring purification for the guilty. By his sacrifice, he purifies the guilty so that they can have a relationship with God. And I know that Jesus taught a lot of other things. I know that Christianity stands for a lot of other things. But it would be good for all of us to always maintain the main thing being the main thing. Jesus is about providing purification for us so that we can know the Father. That is what Jesus did. That is what he came to do. That Jesus adds purification for us. And I know I just love that Romans 5, 1 and 2. I think it's just a great verse about our songs, that it's through Jesus that we have gained access to the Father. And boy, that is so important. As a matter of fact, if we don't ever learn anything else in our whole entire life,
that's enough.
That is it. To know that Jesus has provided purification for us. Jesus has given us access to the Father. There is now nothing between the Father's love and everything that we see Jesus represented in this world, that is the Father reaching out to us, and Jesus provides us to be with the Father. That is gold. That is salvation. That is everything about Jesus in a nutshell. That is about the heart of God.
Everything else is just commentary.
Everything else is a byproduct of that one thing. I know that Jerry, one of our elders here at church, says it a lot. Always keep the horses in front of the cart. Don't ever put the cart in front of the horse. This is keeping the horses in front of the cart. So, who is Jesus? He was the exact representation of the Father. Yeah. Hey, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, we really hope that this video was helpful for you. If you'd like to stay up to date on our weekly content, make sure to subscribe to our channel and click on that little bell icon so you can be notified when new videos are uploaded. And if you'd like to support the ministries here at Access Church and help make videos like this possible, there'll be a link in the description below. As always, we appreciate your partnership in helping us draw people into a growing relationship with God through Jesus Christ.